If you've completed your measured drawing and you have a pencil structure to your figure, you can start to work into that drawing in other media. So pro markers are quite useful, they're very quick, they're very often quite exciting choices of colour, and it's a good idea to think about the idea of tone being built up incrementally. So a tone isn't always easy to judge until you've actually placed it onto the drawing. So it's always a good idea to perhaps start too light with the drawing. If you half close your eyes, a bit like the Notan study, and try to see through your eyelashes, or you review your drawing in the black glass of your mobile phone, you can start to see the idea of light and dark. So begin to sort of block in that first initial tone. If one then moves to the next darker tone in your repertoire of colour, you can then start asking yourself the question, so what is darker than that tone? Obviously, it's really important to reflect on the idea that one sees the figure not just in isolation, but in the surrounding space. So there can be parts of the space around the figure that are also dark. The question at this point in time is not so much what's the colour, but very much how dark is that area. And you'll soon realise that when you're working with the figure, you can produce figure studies in all sorts of colour, which will work if they are the right tone. If, however, you go straight in with the darkest values, then that is going to be quite difficult to retrieve. So it's best to hold back. Yep. Yep. Okay, I'll have a look at it in a minute. When one is working with mixed media, you can also think about the notion of layering. So what media will go on top of marker? So things like coloured pencil would draw on top of this, oil pastel would draw on top of this, chalk pastel would draw on top of this. So it can be quite exciting to mix different materials together within the drawing. You might start off broadly and then begin to gradually refine and develop the drawing. Being cautious as well that you think about focus. So when we look at the subject, we see everything in focus. When we half close our eyes, when we look at the figure, we look at the figure, we see only small fragments in focus at any one time. So in your drawing you do need to decide what parts of my drawing are going to be in focus, what parts of my drawing will be left unresolved. Because obviously if everything's given the same level of detail, then your eye is going to go to all of those things. This is a pastel pencil, and this will work quite nicely over the top. Obviously, if one is conscious of this layering, then if we have highlights that we've lost, we could start to work into the drawing with a white pastel pencil. We could work into it with white gouache. What we might find with gouache is that some of the ink may come through, but that can also offer really exciting possibilities. This is biro. Again, biro can be quite useful in that the nature of the ink is quite waxy, so it will often repel wash areas, and it can be really exciting to combine both dry and wet media in the same study.